want to reach our climate goals in 2030 and 2040, we need a lot of innovation. And innovation comes from startups, but can only scale up if they work together with the big companies. How can they find each other? How can they strengthen each other? And how can they learn each other's languages and really be of value to each other? That's what we're going to discuss with the people of Buccaneer and PortXL. Yeah, and good morning. Next to me we have Kirsten Ruiter. You're the Managing Director of Buccaneer. You're an accelerator that supports and serves start and scale-ups in the energy and maritime and facilitates high-impact partnerships.
Right.
How do you do that?
Well, we are a vibrant community in Delft, so we have office space for multiple startups, so that they can also learn from each other as a community. But very important, we also have a high-quality partner network of big companies in the Netherlands. That could be the potential launching customers for those startups. And this is what we constantly try to bring together in personal contact, ambassadors or events, to make sure that our startups find their ideal customer as soon as possible.
What would happen if the startups had to do it themselves?
I think it will be slower. So we can speed up the process because it takes a lot of time for a startup to get into that potential customer to see if it's a good fit.
Yeah. And Crystal Pullens, you're from PortXL, that you're B2B maritime accelerator with a focus on creating tangible business value for maritime startups and scale-ups. Yeah, what is the difference between the two of you?
Well, in essence, we're aiming for the same thing. So we both want to accelerate the maritime industry in terms of innovation for a more sustainable future. So we always look at the similarities and the common goals. What we would do different than Buccaneer is we run a program where we do matchmaking between a partner, so a corporate, and a startup. And in 3 months' time, we work towards a pilot project or a collaboration. So that creates, let's say, a launching customer or a project, and then they could continue with the program that the Buccaneer has. They can help them with housing and building up their network.
Okay, so I'm a startup, I have a brilliant idea. I come to you, thanks to you, I have developed some prototypes or maybe a first product. I have a business model that I think of how I'm going to bring this to market. And then at one point I realized, I need a customer, probably one of the big corporations. Yeah, I think I put on a suit, I polish my shoes, I go to this big building and I say, I have a brilliant plan for you. Is this how it works?
No, I think one of the big misconceptions is the stage of quality of the startups. So I would like to think of it that the companies that are at the Buccaneer, they are already well capable of negotiating with big companies. They have built their company of dedicated people. So it's much more about understanding complex businesses and finding somebody that's able to take a risk for a couple of millions. Because that's in the end the prices of a lot of the innovations that can have an impact on a large scale. So it's quite difficult what they are pursuing.
Okay, yeah. And how welcoming, so if I go to these big corporations, do they roll out the red carpet, or do I really have to bang the doors, please let me in?
I think both in a sense is true. I think all of these companies want to be innovative. So red carpet is there. But really the commitment to be able to take that risk and accept also financial risk, therefore you need to push a lot of boundaries. Yeah.
Crystal, what are some of these boundaries?
Yeah, so for example, if you would be a regular client, let's say for the purchase department, you have all these policies that you have to live up to. So you have to give certain warranties, you have to meet certain quality standards, you need to have certification. And startups usually don't have that. So it's quite easy to find someone who's enthusiastic about your idea, but to really make it happen, so let's say use an existing vessel and put some new type of fuel into an engine that you're not really sure of what is it going to do to that engine. Someone has to be willing, to actually go beyond, let's say, the safety and risk management systems that the company has in place.
if you're one of these big corporations, you can't have it all. You have to choose. You either have this brand new company that they have this brilliant idea, they're not up to your standards, yeah, or you have to go to the conventional parties. They have their standards, but they don't have the brilliant ideas. Are they too picky?
I think to speed up, they could be less picky.
No, they have all, but they have internal regulations. They can't just ignore them. So how?
True. I think, yeah.
So what I think would help, if you have innovation as part of your company strategy. So if you have certain settings in place within your organization where you create space to actually try out new things. So you can allocate a budget to it, you can allocate people to it, and then you make innovation part of your core business. And what we often see, and you probably too, is that innovation is in the hands of innovation leads or the innovation department, but it's still difficult for them to really pursue an innovation within, for example, the operations department.
Yeah, agree.
You really work hard to make startups corporate ready. So you tell them how to work, you guide them. Do we also need a Buccaneer and PortXL for the big corporations to learn how to deal with startups and be startup ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to learn in each other's language and also each other's pace. So what I would find very interesting is if we could explore more the consequences of our behavior. So if I'm sitting at a corporate company and I take a month for my first appointment and maybe another month to get my colleague on board, that's already 2 months of cash flow for a startup that has to choose which potential customer has the most chance. So it would be great if we could explore each other's blood types a bit more.
Yeah, so at PortXL we have created a masterclass called Innovator in a Day, where we teach corporates what you should have in place to actually successfully cooperate with a startup or scale-up. Because what you see is that when you ask both the startup and the corporate, only 1 out of 3 collaborations is successful. And what we would like to achieve, of course, is that all cooperations are successful. And for example, in that masterclass, we clearly explain the difference between exploration and exploitation. So that's, it's just a totally different ballgame. But for both, you could have KPIs.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, it's running your daily business, so you want to have operational excellence, for example, and that's something totally different than trying out new things, where you actually allow people to fail. You don't want people to fail in your day-to-day business, but you want them to fail when trying out new things.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the outcomes for a startup could be that the maritime industry is not really relevant for them. And when you find out quickly that that's the case, you can focus on something else. So also what you might see as a negative outcome in your normal business could be a very positive outcome when it comes to innovation.
Yeah.
What is behind it? Is it just corporates are really willing? It's hard for them? Or is it they talk about it, but they're not really willing?
I think the first one. I think the intentions are really there, and also the understanding of that we need to make innovations that have a big impact. But it is difficult, and it is costly, and I understand that it's difficult to take a certain financial risk or to get your whole chain in your company along with a certain project or idea. But it is necessary if we want to spend each other's time as useful as possible.
I could also think if I was a startup, I'm going to disrupt the market. I don't need those big guys. Just give me a lot of money from one of these big hedge funds, and I'm going to do it myself.
But you will need a customer, right?
So without a customer, one of the things you say is this crucial is customer validation.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, for me, it's all about listening. So, of course, I also have my own customer validation. I also talk to potential startups that could be connected to the Buccaneer. And I think there's still a lot to learn in asking the right questions to customers to get to the point where you understand if they are committed to be your customer and to take that risk and to pay the amount that's associated with that project.
I'm going to quote Henry Ford, who said, if I ask potential customers what they want, they say, I want faster horses, not a car, because they don't know a car yet. Isn't that the same for what startups come up with?
Yeah, what we try to teach them is basically to answer the question, who has this problem? And is this person willing to pay for a solution? I think that's the core of it. Yeah. And what we see, and it makes sense, you know, because they're short on cash most of the time, is that they want to sell. But like Kirsten said, it's more about truly understanding what the customer needs first before you start selling them something.
Yeah. And also thinking about the process after that. So if I'm a customer and I buy certain mechanics, I want to be sure that it's maintained and that there are enough people to implement it. So this is also very much our focus, to create a carefree experience for a customer, that it's not only buying the product, but really making sure that the whole process is covered.
If I can choose, as I'm a startup, should I see the big corporations as my client or as just a takeover? Then the big money ship comes in and I'm relieved of all my sorrows.
It depends. At least what we see per startup, it depends what they want. You know, and when you look at a big corporation, it can also be an investment in kind. For example, that they invest, you know, just by sharing their knowledge. And then it can really help you, you know, to, like Kirsten mentioned, to grow really quickly instead of trying it on your own and at your own pace. But it differs, you know, per startup, what they're aiming for.
And I think in most sustainable startups, it's more about the potential positive impact it could have on the climate than the personal positive impact it could have.
And then I think it doesn't really matter how you get there, as long as you get there.
Get the scale, yeah.
I'm a big corporation. I'm watching this video and I think, yeah, I really want to understand startups better, and I want to be ready for them. I roll out the red carpet. What is the first thing I should be doing once they come in to also be ready for them?
Set a deadline.
Set a budget.
Yeah.
Deadline, budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Allocate people.
That's good. And visit you to learn how to be startup ready.
Always.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and good luck with connecting these two important worlds. Thank you so much.
Thank you.